Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Circle of Knowledge podcast. I am your host, Jon Kovach Jr., founder and chairman of Champion Circle Networking Association. I'm a global mastermind leader as well as the global leader for the Habitude Warrior Mastermind and the Global Speakers Mastermind through Eric Swanson's Habitude Warrior. And I'm just proud to be here. I'm an international motivational speaker and been kicking off this podcast since 2016. And we've interviewed some great people. We've reviewed some amazing books. We've talked about so many nuggets of knowledge. And we've challenged you, our listeners, to take action on so many aspects of everything you learn. Just like we teach in any mastermind group or in any opportunity where you sit amongst a group of people who care about your goals. We say, as a result of the information, the knowledge, or the counsel you've received today, what do you feel inspired to take immediate action on now? Because ultimately it is up to you to take that action. And oftentimes we make our own declarations to take action. I've taken action in so many areas of my life. And today is kind of a monumentous opportunity for me to highlight an individual who I've been watching, following, and really just experiencing through his content, through his coaching, through his mentorship, and through his counsel. Before I bring this individual up on stage, I have my own perspective I want to share. And even before that, I just want to admit that, again, we want to invite you guys to go check out the 13 Steps to Riches. This is our 13-volume book series based on the principles of Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill's work in 1937. We are authoring a 13-volume book series identifying stories, challenges, and so much more in every single one of those principles throughout this volume series. And we've got 13 incredible celebrity authors who've contributed and co-authored with us in this series, and it's phenomenal. Go check it out on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any retailer that you have nearby. We are everywhere. And in tribute to Napoleon Hill and the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I'm actually really, really excited to have a conversation today with the featured speaker. Now, we're recording this on an off day from the normal format, and I think it's for good reason, because this individual can, in my opinion, do so much good in honoring the late and great passing of our dear mentor, friend, and someone who has changed the world for good in personal and professional development, Bob Proctor. And this individual, was mentored by and had a relationship with, and I'm so excited to interview him. This individual, his name is Todd, and Todd, make sure I say your name right, because I've always called you Todd Bauerle or Todd Bauerle or Todd Bauerle, or I don't know. How do you say your last name?
So does everybody else. It's Todd Bauerle technically, but Todd just works. Yeah,
I like Todd, but Todd Bauerle is an amazing human being. I call him because I've done just a little bit of research on his background, but really I've been following him from this incredible day, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. But Todd Bauerle is a life coach, a family coach, a career coach, a mentorship coach, a mindset coach, someone who has taken the principles of personal development, has researched them, and puts them into action by helping individuals, hundreds and thousands of people all over the world, whether it's through social media or through personal clientele or even some of his master classes, teaches you on the principles and products of personal development. And a lot of his mentorship came from none other than Mr. Bob Proctor. But highlighting Todd is that he is phenomenal at what he does. He is so good at teaching. And we were just talking backstage a minute ago that sometimes we can get long-winded, because this conversation is about to bloom in all of the knowledge and the geek out awesomeness that we get excited about when it comes to personalized and personal development. But Todd, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, the Circle of Knowledge podcast. And thank you for being here today. I'm just honored to have you and really excited to highlight you and to introduce you to my listeners. But I want to kick it off by first asking you to tell a little bit about yourself, and then I'll tell the audience how I first came to know about you. But with that being said, it's an open-ended, open mic for a few minutes. Tell us about you and where you came from and your upbringing, and how you came to be Todd Bauerle today.
I have no idea where to begin. I am just as common and normal as every other person, raised by goodly parents that eventually divorced. And, I came from bullied in school and overweight and struggling to where I'm at now, coaching Bob's material. And I've seen a huge transformation in my life. The beginning of my life story isn't very exciting, but I can walk you through a couple of brief pivotal points. To be completely honest, I had no idea how to figure out life and happiness, and was struggling just in a survival mode for a majority of my young adult and even adult life. But I had this gift for helping other people out, and this is kind of the irony of being a coach and a mentor. For me, one, I couldn't figure my own life out, but I could help other people. And so I thought maybe if I went to school and studied marriage and family therapy and relationships and psychology and sociology, I could start to understand myself and life better and know what I was talking about. But that path, my degrees in human and family development, it led me to a career in social work. I worked here in Utah with my wife at a nonprofit group home for foster youth. And we did that for about 4 years, helping families reunite and work through some incredibly dense trauma. And that was beautiful. That was wonderful. And then when the economy downturned, I found myself out of work. We had just bought a home, and I ended up working for the state of Utah. I was a career coach, helping people with their resumes, interviews, get better jobs. I took to that career coaching environment like a duck to water. It was really easy for me to master. I developed a great reputation within the state. I would have people in rural Utah go into a center and try and work with their coach, and their coach was intimidated by them, and they'd call me up and ask for my counsel on how to coach them. But I'll tell you where my story really begins. I was working for that organization, not earning a lot of money. I was earning $35,000 a year, at least by the time I left. I have 3 kids. My marriage was struggling, and then my wife was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Oh, wow. In 2015. She had that removed that summer. I'm not sure if you know this or not, John, but all of a sudden I couldn't continue to live my life the way that I was living anymore. Short story on my wife, the tumor was benign. It regrew a little bit a few years later. She had radiation. She's really doing well, but she hasn't worked since then. And she was earning more than I was. So I had to hire a coach and mentor. And that mentor told me, he says, every coach needs a coach. And I went, oh my gosh, you're totally right. And he told me we become what we think about. And he asked me how much money I earned. And I told him I wasn't earning very much. And he says, you know why that's the most that you've earned? I said, yeah, no, please tell me. And he says, it's because you believe that's what you're worth. And I couldn't argue with that. And so I did something remarkably stupid for someone whose wife is on disability. You have 3 kids, a mortgage, and you're not making very much money. I invested thousands of dollars in this coach, and he was a Bob Proctor certified coach. And I started learning from Bob at that moment. And when I did, everything changed. Less than a year later, John, I quit my job, started career coaching people. I tripled my income. And it was because of these 13 principles that Napoleon Hill has taught, because of Bob's teaching, that I made that impact in their lives, that I changed my lives and helped my clients get dream jobs and double or triple their income. I thought I've got to teach this stuff, the real change behind all of these results. And that's when I became certified by Bob, started learning from him directly. It was about 2018. I'm one of his top coaches in the world. There's, out of a couple thousand coaches, there's maybe like 50 people that have earned this kind of level status as one of his top global coaches from the inner circle. And life just keeps getting better and better because I've learned how to control my mind. So there's me in like 5 minutes.
And I did not know that story about your wife. And update. How is she? Is she doing well?
She's good. We were scheduled for an annual scan here in another month or so, and we kind of live our lives between those scans. I think it was the fall of 2019 that she had radiation, which, I mean, when you go through something like that, John, your life is now at a new normal. And it has been the biggest blessing in our lives. Everything changed because we just couldn't live that way any longer. And so I look back at that transformative period, and no matter how hard it was, I felt there was a strong reassurance that everything was happening for a reason, and everything would be okay. And it's been the biggest motivation. So when I talk about what I do and what I teach, and we'll get into all of that, I'm a product of it. I'm a student of it myself. I had to be. The lives of my children, the life of my wife depended on it.
Yeah. Wow. And a lot of that started in 2015. This amazing growth and process is definitely evolved. I want to share with my listeners when I got to know Todd for the first time. And I jumped onto this crazy, silly app called TikTok. And it was in 2019. Can you believe that? 2019. And one of the first people that the app suggested I follow was Todd. And I know that the app groups people by location, interest, and a few other arbitrary, we'll call them just groupings, right? Or just some categories. And Todd was one of the first people I actually followed on the app. And I actually remember, and I wish I had a screenshot because I was learning. I was trying to become a better marketer and a better coach and a better speaker on TikTok. And public speaking is a very interesting topic to cover on social media. And I feel like there are very few people who have absolutely tapped into how to grow exponentially on social media. So I was studying you. I was watching you. I was seeing what you were doing compared to all these other exciting influencers, we'll call them with quotes and stuff. And I remember looking at Todd's profile and saying, wow, he's got a little over 1,000 followers. And I love what he's doing. He's himself. He talks and there's all this hype about short form video where things need to be trendy, good music, less than 7 seconds, using these flashes of text and stuff. And I was studying all these people and watching them, but Todd did what Todd does. Todd was himself. He was authentic. He was, open and honest with people. He was bringing out the best in others by talking about the things that mattered most. He was using his knowledge and mentorship on this app. And unpopularly compared to all the other trend experts and artists, Todd has scaled. And now, if you look at him on TikTok and Instagram, and TikTok, he's got over 300,000 followers. He's grown so much. But as I watch and continue to watch his content, Todd provides value to people, and he does it in his authentic way. And he's built a name for himself through social media as somebody who offers truth, light, knowledge, opportunity, and is very, very good at orating that to other people. And so that's how in 2019, Todd, I got to know you, even though we're sort of neighbors. I live in Heber City, Utah. I'm just over the hill from you. I do know that somehow, some way, I was attracted to following your progress and what you've done, and I've admired you from a distance. And I'm so grateful and excited to have developed and built sort of a distant social relationship, and hopefully for moving forward, we can find really cool things to work together on. But I'm just so grateful for this. And so given all of that perspective about life, family, coaching, mentorship, risk, and where you're at now, plug and play what I've seen from just across the hill. And it's pretty remarkable to me what I've seen happen over the last little while.
Actually, it's only been over the last year, because my first video was New Year's Eve 2020.
Oh, so it must have been, 2020 then.
That was the first, but literally it was New Year's Eve 2020. And I remember that video, and I had heard people suggesting TikTok, and there's something intuitive inside me that is I know that I need to do this. This will be good for me. It'll be good to help people, but it's going to help me and my business and my family. And so that video, it was short. It was saying there's something different, because 2020, the pandemic nightmare that we've all lived through for the last 2+ years, was so different. And that's what I spoke to. I said, there's something different about this New Year's. No longer are we waiting for the outside to change. We know that something inside needs to change if we're going to ever change our lives. And that was my first video. And it was, only a couple of months until things really started to blow up and I had my first couple of viral videos. So it's definitely been a journey.
And let me just ask, we won't spend too much time on this because there's so much more than TikTok in this world. But I because of the virality, I mean, let's talk about just as a marketing professional, using your skill sets, using your knowledge, and jumping into platforms like this. What have you found to be effective usages of these platforms, and why would you recommend to small business owners, any type of business owner, or even just coaches like yourself, to use platforms like this?
You know what? I've got to go a completely different way and distance from the platform itself or any platform in general. Okay. And let's go back to principles. TikTok worked for me because of my use of auto-suggestion. Okay, let's go right. It's third principle of Think and Grow Rich. After desire, after faith is auto-suggestion. Napoleon Hill teaches us to have a goal that we really, really want and to auto-suggest it. Auto-suggestion is a stimulus given from self to self. You experience it through your 5 senses. It is the only known method of creating the emotion of faith, and you need to have faith and belief to achieve your goals. I had the most rigorous auto-suggestion practice that I ever had in my life last year. And I would be writing out my goals, doing meditations and visualizations, and I would jump on this silly children's dancing app and I would see something and I know I have to stitch it and I know exactly what I'm going to say, like a flash of lightning. Napoleon Hill writes in the auto-suggestion chapter that when plans appear, the how to reach your goal, when plans appear, they will come as a sudden message. Consider it a direct telegram from infinite intelligence. It'll be a flash in your mind. And when that plan appears, you put it into action right away. Failure to do so is fatal to your success. And so that's what I did. I would have 30 minutes between coaching calls. I'd open TikTok. I'd see some go, oh, I'm going to do something about money, or I'm going to talk about we become what we think about. And I'd set up my little tripod and I'd shoot a little video. I'd edit it, throw some titles on, upload it immediately, and boom, and then it was like following intuition as well. Like, wow, you're in a good vibe. Today's a good time to do a TikTok live. And little do I know that the algorithm is going to favor your post if you have a popular algorithm. And I remember there was a client of mine that signed up who was sending me text messages while I was on there. It says, you are blowing up and going viral right now. And he said, I told you were going to surpass your mentor, surpass Bob. And Bob's TikTok account is clips of him on stage and stuff like that. But I climbed way past his viewership, and it was just in that moment. Why? Because I was following the intuitive guidance that Spirit was suggesting me to do in that moment. So what would I say to other people, coaches, mentors, businesses, people that want to grow on social media? Do you have a clear goal? Are you really aligned? Are you following the principles? Are you taking inspired action? If so, it doesn't matter what platform you use. It doesn't matter the skills, tactics, strategies that you use, because the cause of your success is going to be your mindset. It's going to be your attraction point, and it's going to be your ability to follow the intuitive breadcrumbs that come to you.
Wow. Thank you for that. And I love that you started from the intuition, and thank you for bringing up the concept of auto-suggestion. I mean, these are underlying principles of success and truth that people easily, they don't need to discover because it's already within us. It's part of our nature, and the fact that you tap into that and teach people and share with people the ability to take that by the reins and put it in for the use of good is an accelerator, I call them, for success and achieving goals. And people are, I bet you got this as you were putting those intuitive videos out there. I bet you had so many people questioning your validity and questioning whether this was
Oh my gosh.
like they probably thought this was some sort of witchcraft of sorts because of how foreign it may have seemed to them that they had it within themselves to succeed. What do you think about that?
I mean, to this day, nothing attracts haters like success, right? And I was unprepared. I mean, I'm a very, I'm an extremely sensitive individual.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a big heart. I really care about people. I really want them to succeed, but also I have weaknesses myself with my own self-confidence, and I've had a long history of bullying and emotional abuse. And so when the haters came out, I was unprepared for that. My mind was wide open, and I got, unfortunately, very emotionally involved in some of that. And I had someone else suggest to me, and then I later made a TikTok on it, was, for every hater that says something, you have probably transformed 10 other lives that you haven't even met and don't even know of. And I love what Gary Vee says about haters, is he just feels bad. I've gotten to a point where I just feel bad about them, that they're so miserable that they want to attack and tear someone else down, and that I'm the target for that. And so, I try to engage to some degree with haters to try and help and serve. And sometimes that turns out well and sometimes not. But a lot of my conversations on TikToks, or when I make a video responding to someone's comment, I want to use that as a teaching opportunity. For me, however, I realize those people may not be open to learning more. So it's very interesting. Everybody's a critic, and Bob would often talk about how opinions are the cheapest commodity on earth. Everyone's got an opinion. But I know me. I know what I've done. I've seen my success. I've seen my bank account grow. I've seen my following increase. I've seen the changes in my health and my happiness. So I know what works, and I get to stand by that with just an unflinching knowledge of, like, I know what truth is.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I want to kind of shift focus a little bit and talk about your relationship. And if we could just take another few minutes here and honor Bob Proctor. And I personally did not know Bob. I've listened to his stuff. I was a student of his books growing up. I followed him on every social media account. The guy I work with, Eric Swanson, founder of the Habitude Warrior, I mean, he knew him personally and worked with him, spoke on stage with him. I'm kind of this younger motivational speaker who unfortunately watches all of the greats leave this earth without even getting to know them. But I've studied them, I've left, and I've learned so much about them. But you've had the amazing opportunity of being mentored by and learning his stuff. And it sounds like you were connected through a personal trainer of Bob's stuff. And then, you grew from there. But I'd love to know your personal connection and what you've learned. And, let's take a few minutes here and just tribute to Bob for a second. And I know it's not appropriate to ask the question, so what did you learn from Bob, right? Because what didn't we learn, right?
Yeah,
the guy
everything.
But I'd like to pass the mic over to you, and let's take a few moments here and just share with me your personal experiences, and let's tribute to Bob Proctor and his life, and what came of it because of who you are now. I know, totally loaded, totally ambiguous.
It's a lot.
But let's just pack this down, and I'll interject. But tell me a little bit about your experience working with Bob.
When I first started this coaching experience and was going through this program, thinking into results with Bob, well, it wasn't with him. It was his videos and his workbooks and things like that. I joined a live stream paradigm shift seminar that he put on. This was October 2016. And I was posting on about my journey, because I wasn't even coaching this material at this point in time. I was just excited to have hope in my life. And that was exhilarating enough. I posted something on a picture of Think and Grow Rich, my copy, on Instagram. And there was a friend that I was connected with from my elementary school days that messaged me privately. His name is DP Gates. He's a VP of sales for Bob. His mom actually started the coaching programs for the Life Success company that Bob was part of a long time ago. So he's been mentored by Bob since his 20s. And I didn't know this. And we had some exchange back and forth. And I was posting stuff this whole weekend. I posted a picture of my 4-year-old at the time, Zachary, saying, "My head, my body, my name, my results." It's a great line from, I think, lesson 4 of Thinking into Results. Well, DP got that in front of Bob. Bob saw that video. This was a Saturday morning. He comes back from a break, and I've got the video clip somewhere. And he says, he's talking to the camera, and he says, there's a gentleman watching this named Todd, and he butchers my last name, Burl or whatever he says. But he says, there's something special about this seminar that Todd's watching, because Todd has Zach, who's 4 years old, with him. And he had everybody stand up and say, wave hi to Zach, and say, hi, Zach. And he turned around and told the whole audience, says, Zach can get it faster than you can. I mean, I was sitting upstairs in my living room. Zach was right there. My kids were right there. And we're like, oh my gosh, did this just happen? And that was a kindness, sure, extended to me because I had this relationship with someone that he knew, but that was a kindness for my kids that was a real window into the kind of personality that Bob was. Flash forward a couple of years later, my first consultant training, this was 2018. It was my first time seeing Bob live, and I was just over the moon, writing down all kinds of notes like crazy. And I wanted to meet him and talk to him. And I remember it was so funny. We were breaking for lunch. I went into the restroom, and I came out, and I was walking right behind him. And this man, I think he was probably 84 at the time. He was speeding down the hall with his daughter-in-law, Corey, with his little bag on wheels behind him, going so fast. And I just said, hey, Bob, thanks for this morning's session. He stopped where he was. He turned around. He shook my hand and asked, how I liked it, how long I've been a consultant. And at the same time, kind of looked at me like, who the hell is this kid? Right. I was probably 25 pounds heavier than I am now, maybe 30 or 40 pounds heavier. And I remember that in that moment saying, I'm going to show you who I am. I didn't say it, but then we flash forward to February 2020, the last time I got to be in a room with him. And I'd had some conversations. I went to different events. I don't know that he knew me from Adam at that time, but his son, Brian, who I have a very close relationship with, arranged a time for my whole family to spend about 30 minutes with him privately. Forgive me, I'll be emotional because it's just a highlight of my life. My kids came out to California. We were going to Disneyland afterwards. They knew they were going to see Bob from stage, and they were going to be there for the question and answer session. So I told them to have some questions ready. I was not expecting what we got. We were in the green room. We sat around a table. Each of my kids got to ask him questions. My wife asked him questions, but talked about her tumor. Bob said, Earl Nightingale had a tumor, and he never talked about it with anybody. He says, you let the doctors take care of your body. You take care of your mind. And Brian, I heard him over his shoulder. He goes, I didn't know Earl Nightingale had a brain tumor, But he answered each of my kids' questions and gave them all one of his pens. If you ever saw in seminars, he has these little pens that say Bob's pen on it. Gave each of my kids one and just talked to them about themselves. And I mean, it was just the most moving experience. And to this day, I mean, my kids are not angels. John, they still struggle with the same stuff everybody else struggles, but we remind them of, what did Bob tell you that day? Bob said, allow other people to be themselves. Those teaching moments were just the most powerful that I've ever had. Yeah, there's the picture that you've got up. The last conversation I had with Bob was this summer in August. We were on a coaching call and doing question and answers, and I asked him some struggles that I had, and I already knew the answers. I knew what he was going to tell me. But it was a great opportunity to have confirmation of what I intuitively know come out of this master's mouth. He told me what my goal could be, and I took him up on that challenge, and that remains my goal to this day until it'll be fulfilled. So I mean, it's just there's so much that I could say about Bob. I'm just forever grateful to know him, to know his family, and I don't know that I miss him, because I feel like I'm closer to him more than ever now. And we have all of his teachings available for everyone to learn from. His words carry more weight. What I do now is even more important, helping teach people to live from within. So that's a little bit there. One other thing pops into my head. When I earned this silver pin here as one of his top consultants, this little exclamation pin, he asked me, he said, "What is it that you're telling people that has made the biggest impact?" I had all these other kinds of things to mention, and it came to me in that moment. I said, "I tell people that they are not the voice in their head that tells them that they can't, that they are more than that, and that their job is to let that version of themselves out, and everything that they want in life will be theirs." And he said, "That's really the secret right there. You keep telling people that, and I will."
Phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that for me was truly the icing on the cake, because I personally was speechless when we lost Bob. I have listened to his works, have studied him, and I don't know him personally, but I've taken my shots before and tried to reach out on social media, only to be connected with his social media team and so forth. But I'm just so grateful that you shared that message, and thank you for sharing it the way you did, because for me that closes it for me to know that Bob lives on, Bob's teaching live on, and Bob stood on the shoulders of giants. It's now an opportunistic era for us to stand on his shoulders and to stand on the shoulders of other legends. One of my mentors and one of the gentlemen I work with, Eric Swanson, and the founder of Habitude Warrior, he chimed in for a second here and just said, Bob Proctor is huge and a legend, I mean, to say the least, right? And again, we have the blessed opportunity to perpetuate the knowledge and the light and the circumstances, but even just the principles that lead to success, to overcoming challenges, and to finding our light and our truth within all things. And I really respect what you said, and thank you for sharing it. And also thank you for that amazing, I know it's just an email, but I love that email. I saved it. I was so excited to read that, see your kids hanging out with Bob, and to have that experience. I get choked up talking about it too, because I am just a student of it all. And I know that I probably share the same sympathies and feelings as thousands of people throughout the world. But talking to somebody who had a relationship is pretty amazing. And so thank you for sharing all that.
And I don't want to misrepresent that relationship, because I every single time I talked with him, I had to remind him, I'm DP's childhood friend. Oh yeah, that's right. Because he worked with so many hundreds of people. But just to be in the presence of that man, that guy vibrated at a different level. His energy was just totally different. And it wasn't always that way. That's the other thing. I remember I was at an event where someone was asking to be his autobiographer, to write his autobiography. And he said, well, I don't know, that'd be a very good book. First part of my life was really awful. It was really miserable. I don't think anybody would like reading that. No one cares about me. And that's really, I think, the core of his message too. I gave a tribute in our Proctor Gallagher Institute consultants page the day after we found out. I went on live. Bob always said, you'll leave one of his events thinking that he's such a great guy, but you don't know anything about him. He says, I spent the whole time talking about you. Bob's message is about you, Jon, or everybody listening here, that they can, if they can dream it, they can do it. And letting that light shine. And our job as mentors is to shine our light as bright as possible so that the other people out there that don't have access to that inner light yet, that they can see clearly enough to start letting their own light shine.
Wow. Thank you for that. That really helps me. And I know we took a few minutes on that, but I really, really wanted to allow,
That's awesome.
I really wanted to allow you to shine in his presence, and thank you for that. I would like to shift over in respect to Bob and everything that we've learned. And I'd like to allow you an opportunity to share some knowledge that's Todd knowledge that Todd can share with the world. My listeners are trained to receive knowledge on this podcast and then to take action on that knowledge. And I told you a little bit before, but listeners of this podcast are small business owners, entrepreneurs from all over the world, mostly US and Canada. The majority of these people are men and women, both 60% men, 40% women, and in their 30s and 40s, building their own personal businesses or side hustles. And they cue into this podcast for knowledge and obtaining any more information of resources to improve. But I think what they get most out of what we teach here is the principles that lead to one or two small things to change their life in a better way. I'd love to ask you, what nuggets of knowledge, or if anything, would you like to share with my audience? And a really good way to answer this, but you don't have to answer it this way, is if you could go back to childhood Todd and knowing what you know now, what would you tell Todd then? I know there's so many things. The list goes on. I have a list hanging out my door here, but just share some knowledge that you think you'd like to share with them, and to help them to take action in one direction better than they have currently.
If I went back in time to talk to little Todd, and I'll be emotional with it, and so this is a message for everybody listening: there's nothing wrong with you, is what I would say. The story that we tell ourselves is either our biggest problem or our biggest key to success. And if we allow our assumptions about ourselves, our incorrect assumptions about ourselves, to control our minds, control our lives, we're going to forever be miserable. And they're lies. They're lies that we've been told. There are lies that we agree with. And we think that they're true because they feel true. For a long time, I grew up thinking there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't have what I wanted, or that I wasn't good enough, or that I wasn't worthy. And that is just a bold lie. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We're spiritual beings having this human experience. You don't have a soul, you are a soul. And that aspect of who we are, that consciousness, that being, however you want to call it, however you want to relate to the universe, God, source energy, it doesn't matter to me anymore. There's part of that divine perfection that exists in each one of us. We need to tell that story over and over and over again. We need to get emotionally involved with that story. And I would tell little Todd to stop lying to himself. The biggest thing I think that I've learned about people is that we are all complete liars. And this is where you talk about my authenticity or my transparency is really hard won. Because I want to show up and be authentic, because I realize my success is going to be authentically related to who I am. But there's so many people that lie to themselves. And my mission here on earth is to get people to stop lying to themselves and tell the real story about who they really are and what they can accomplish. If they're limitless beings, then what they can accomplish should be equally limitless, and that's okay. The the secret to life, the secret to success as an entrepreneur is very simple. The story you tell yourself becomes your results. If you don't like the results, you need to tell a different story. And that is an everyday thing. There is not a day off, because you're telling yourself a story one way or another. Are you going to believe the default one that's been installed through your childhood, from your parents, from the environment, from the news? Or are you going to tell the one that's about your true potential? And if you don't know how to tell that story, and you don't know how to be consistent with it, or what strategies or tactics you have to reprogram your mind to another story, you need to get help. You need to get help doing that. The line that was given to me was, and I mentioned it already, every coach needs a coach.
Yeah.
There's no greater truth than that. So it can be a coach, it can be a therapist, it can be a friend, it can be books, it can be watching videos of Bob, it could be all kinds of things. Use my TikTok account as mentoring. But at some point, you have to make a decision that you're not going to live the old way anymore. Because that was key for me. Making a committed decision, the power of decision. With all the knowledge that you have right now, make the decision and decide to change your life, period. Those are, I mean, that's in very broad strokes. I don't know that I'm revealing any major secrets that nobody doesn't know, right? But that's the truth. I've done a lot of stuff, John. I mean, I've had a lot of mentors. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my personal development. I've got all kinds of books back here. I've read a large majority of them. My Amazon wish list is always bigger than my bookshelf. I've engaged in, spiritual extreme sports, and there is a heck of a lot that I have done, and it all comes back to one simple truth. My results are a product of the story I tell myself. There's no other truth out there.
I personally am grateful for the mission you lead and the words you share, and I believe that they are transformational, because again, we'll go back to the story of me just stumbling upon in my eyes, a young entrepreneur on TikTok, and have viewed you grow as you continue to work with and bless other people through these words and knowledge. And I'm grateful for the knowledge that you shared. The application is so clear to me, whether it's picking up a book or making one small step in the right direction, or even just stop lying to yourself. All of those things, man, I resonate, and I know my audience does too. I actually think, I say this often on the show, but I think I'm the dumbest one on the show, because I personally attract people who I admire and people who I see as someone who really can add value to the world, so that I can have a front row seat to learn from you. And I appreciate everything you shared today. And I appreciate just the concepts. And I know, Todd, because we could talk for hours, that we barely even covered the surface. We just put a little ripple in that, because there are depths upon depths that we could go to and reach. But that's why I'd like to ask you to come back to the podcast on a later date and time too, because there's just so much more we could cover. But I am grateful for the words you shared. And I want to point my listeners just towards you to learn more. And I highly recommend, as you said, even if it's as simple as just following you on TikTok or Instagram. I've learned so much. And whether it's a short 1-minute video or 30-second videos, there's so much to learn and gain, and to reflect on who you can be through the principles that you teach, that Bob has taught, that so many people have taught before us. And I wanted to pay tribute to that. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for your time. And I'd love to just kind of switch gears here, and as we start to wrap up, is obviously I put it up here on social media. If you guys want to follow Todd, go to @Todd Bauerle and find him anywhere on any one of those social media channels.
Actually, there's an L in that. Todd L. Bauerle.
Whoa!
So
talk about a typo. Let's fix that one.
So we need to add that, Todd L. Bauerle. And I've intentionally had that handle be consistent across social media platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is the one where there's like over 350,000 followers on, and I'm most active on there. Twitter as well. So yeah, please come and follow and listen. And also, I'm going to give away a PDF of Bob's best-selling book, You Were Born Rich. Right? That's the truth. And maybe money is another thing we talk about in the future, because that's a fascinating topic. But download that book and take action on it. Don't just read it. Read it and implement. Find a way to implement it. I took a class from Bob. And again, this isn't all about Bob. It's not about me. And this is about you. But I took this class where he walked us through that book. And he spent months on the middle chapters of that book. And it's such a beautiful story. One is chapter 3, is the image maker. Build the image of what you want. Make it clear. The next chapter is you got to let go and let God. There's a power greater than you working to and through you to your results. You got to let go and be guided by that power, by intuition. And then chapter 5 is expecting abundance. You have to expect an abundance. So read that book and take action on it. The only other thing I'll mention is coming up in March, middle of March, early March 7th, I'll have a free 5-day class where not only I'll be honoring Bob's legacy, but I'll be teaching some of the principles and give you guys a workbook to work through it. Would love to have you join. And John, I think you've got a link for that you can throw in the show notes and add as well. And reach out and say hi. Tell me that you came from this podcast so I can let John know. And that'd be great. We'll look forward to having you there.
And thank you for that, Todd. And I will have all of these available in the show notes, especially that PDF download. Thank you for authorizing that dissemination of that. I look forward to it. I'm a PDF, ebook, audiobook junkie. And
do you have a copy of that book? Have you read it?
I have not read a copy of that book from Bob.
Better than that, I've got a physical copy. I'll get you a physical copy of it, John.
Thank you. That's awesome. I look forward to that. And in exchange, I'll share with you some of my favorite books too. I'm all about the book trade and share. I love that. If I can have the U.S. postage keeping afloat books of awesomeness somewhere out there, then I'm all for that. But thank you, Todd. Again, we just barely touched the surface. I would love to invite you back to the podcast. We'll figure out a date and time for that. So much more can be said.
Anytime.
And I look forward to continuing our connection and relationship. We'll invite you to some of the things we've got going on in our corner, from Champion Circle to Habitude Warrior. I know that Eric Swanson would be delighted to connect with you, since you shared such an intimate opportunity to connect with Bob. He has some great stories with Bob as well. And there's just so much that can be done, but I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. I've been thinking about this since 2020 when I started listening to Todd Bauerle on TikTok, and I'm just looking forward to so much more. So again, appreciate you, my friend, and looking forward to more.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John.
You're welcome. And with that being said, everybody, thank you for watching or listening to another episode of the Circle of Knowledge podcast, where we heard today from Todd L. Bauerle, and you're in for a treat. This is an opportunity to connect with an esteemed individual and someone who I've admired from a distance, socially, virtually, and in so many ways. And until next time, have that champion mindset intact, always thinking and raising your standards, thinking about how you can be, who you can be, and what it is that you're so obsessed in achieving. And thank you for another awesome episode of The Circle of Knowledge.